Hi, Professor Navarro here again. And in this lecture, we're going to discuss two of the most important concepts and problems in economics, those of public goods and externalities. To put the public goods and externalities problems in perspective, you may recall from Lecture 5 that perfect competition provides an efficient allocation of society's resources. However, you may also recall that when one or more of the assumptions of perfect competition are not met, a market failure results. So far, we have examined the market failure of imperfect competition in our discussions of monopoly, monopolistic competition, and oligopoly. Now we turn to public goods and externalities, and here's the key point. These two market failures alone provide much of the rationale for a large part of our government's expenditures. For example, each year the United States government spends hundreds of billions of dollars on one public good alone, national defense. And these defense expenditures represent around 20% of the total federal budget. At the same time, billions more are spent on other public goods ranging from parks, roads, and bridges to our criminal justice system, flood control programs, and even our lighthouses on the high seas. In this lecture, we will explain why it is the government, rather than the private marketplace, that often has to provide for all these public goods. Similarly, we will see that the externalities market failure helps explain not only the existence of many of our environmental protection laws, but also many government health services. In analyzing this important problem, we want to come to understand the many different ways a government can address it, from liability rules, lawsuits, and direct controls, to the use of taxes to discourage negative externalities and subsidies to encourage positive externalities.
Government intervention into the free market has an enormous effect on our everyday lives. As a student at a public college or university, taxpayers heavily subsidize your education. As an employer or worker in a private corporation, the government imposes a wide range of health, safety, and environmental regulations at the same time that it takes a large bite out of your profits or wages. To do so in this lecture, we are going to return to some unfinished business from Lecture 5. You may recall from that lecture that we illustrated how perfect competition provides an efficient allocation of society's resources. And you may also recall that when one or more of the assumptions of perfect competition are not met, we have what is called a market failure. When you visit a restaurant or butcher shop, the government is there too, helping to prevent food poisoning through meat inspections. And as you jump into your car or onto your motorcycle, that seatbelt or helmet you must wear has been mandated by the government as well. In fact, from cradle to grave, the government always seems to be with us, whether it is providing police protection or a national defense system or roads and bridges and clean air. What we want to do is better understand the economic underpinnings of government intervention in the marketplace. So far, we've examined the market failure of imperfect competition in our discussions of monopoly, monopolistic competition, and oligopoly. However, in Lecture 5, I also briefly mentioned two additional market failures dealing with what are called public goods and externalities. It is to these two extremely important market failures that we now turn.